The resurrection of the dead is one of the fundamental messages of the Bible. Not only are there several resurrection examples in the Bible, but also promises of resurrections in the future. But that raises the question, why will there be resurrections, who will be resurrected, and when will the resurrections take place? First, let's address the why. All people have to be judged by the God known as Jehovah. Except for those who have been judged already, all people ever conceived, will meet and face their Creator. We read in John chapter 5 verses 28 and 29, "Do not marvel at this, for an hour is coming when all who are in the tombs will hear His voice, and come out, those who have done good, to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil, to the resurrection of judgment." The judgment is to determine who shall inherit the earth. As mentioned in Psalm chapter 37 verses 29, "The righteous shall inherit the land, and dwell upon it forever." Second, who will be resurrected? Clearly, Adam and Eve has been judged and will not be resurrected. The same goes for those who died in the great flood, and the same will go for those dying in Armageddon, also sometimes referred to as Day of Reckoning, Day of Judgment, Judgment Day, Doomsday, or the Day of the Lord. Since God will kill all His enemies there and then, they too have been judged, and those who live will need no resurrection, and those who die will need no further judgment. So the resurrections are for those who died at any time after Adam and Eve, while I have not been judged while alive. This brings us to when will it happen? Well, since we do not know when the day of the Lord is, we can only say it will be after that day. But we do have some inclination to the time frame. This is shown by a prophecy recorded in chapter 4 of the Bible book of Daniel. God caused King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon to have a prophetic dream, showing God would set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. We read in Daniel chapter 2 verse 31 to 44. "You saw, O king, and behold, a great image. This image, mighty and of exceeding brightness, stood before you, and its appearance was frightening. The head of this image was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its middle and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. As you looked, a stone was cut out by no human hand, and it struck the image on its feet of iron and clay, and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver and the gold, all together were broken in pieces, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away so that not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth." This was the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. "You, O king, the King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, and the might, and the glory, and into whose hand He is given, wherever they dwell, the children of man, the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heavens, making you rule over them all, you are the head of gold. Another kingdom inferior to you shall arise after you, and yet a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. And there shall be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, because iron breaks to pieces and shatters all things. And like iron that crushes, it shall break and crush all these. And as you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, it shall be a divided kingdom, but some of the firmness of iron shall be in it, just as you saw iron mixed with the soft clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly iron and partly clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly brittle. As you saw the iron mixed with soft clay, so they will mix with one another in marriage, but they will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of those kings the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed, nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever." We know the kingdom spoken of in this prophecy was, first Babylonia, then Medo-Persia, followed by Greece and then Rome. However, the last one, the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, is interpretational, meaning different denominations have a different take on it. The reason we know the first four is this: the scripture said Nebuchadnezzar was the head of gold, meaning Babylonia. In Daniel others chapters, we are told the next two are Medo-Persia and Greece. In Revelation chapter 17 verse 10 we read, "They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen, one is, the other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain only a little while." At the time of the writing of the Revelation, the world power was Rome, meaning the one that is. The last one, the other has not yet come, has to be a world power of sorts, and has to be after the Roman Empire and must be here today, in our time. What it is and when it falls is uncertain, however, since it's a world power of today, a good guess would be Anglo-America. Britain was once a northwestern part of the Roman Empire. But by the year 1763, it had become the British Empire. By 1776 its 13 North American colonies had declared their independence and became the United States of America. In later years, however, Britain and the United States have partnered in both war and peace. Thus, the Anglo-American combination can be said to come into existence, and will likely be the seventh world power of biblical prophecy. The dual legs of the dream image could include both Britain and America as a dual world power, part iron and part clay. In any case, I do not see any other candidates as a world power today, and yet old enough to have followed Rome. A clear candidate will be America with its Anglo allies, the former British Empire, combined with the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Partners in NATO, as well as in both world wars. So, God's kingdom will come, while the English dominance still exists, and therefore, before it is overtaken by any other world power. After God's kingdom is re-established on earth, post the destruction of all earthly kingdoms, then the time of resurrection will come, and the judgment of all mankind will be finished.